Hello and good evening from Germany. This is Jonathan Quell Higgins the third. I'm streaming live here from Germany, and I welcome all the punters in the audience. At the moment, we don't have many. Actually, we are at zero. So let's see. Oh no, now it's speaked up. It's sparked up um, to 8 viewers. So that's great to see. First of all, I have to apologize. I moved the show for 1 hour because OC has a commitment with iBashers. I'm not sure if he's still there. I hope that he will come over for a little chat for a couple of minutes, and so I delayed the show for 1 hour. So yeah, that is the internal stuff. A little bit more internal. I would like to talk to OC a little bit later about our channel name, which is Elite Horology. When we were starting that particular channel, that is over a year ago, and people were not very complimentary about me, calling me an elitist, and I wanted to have that elitist in the channel name. So we the first draft, or the first idea was to call it horological elitists, which was my favorite. But that's a little bit choppy and a little bit long and very difficult to remember. So I had some conversations with OC, and he came up with the name Elite Horology, which is a little bit shorter and snappier. I've heard complaints from Lux Report that he said it's unoriginal, because he had a channel that was called Elite Luxury. Actually, we knew that. We didn't want to copy him. I tried to explain you where we are coming from and how that channel name came. So yes, you could say we copied you, but as a matter of fact, we started with a different idea in the channel. So yeah, at the moment we have 7 viewers. Joseph D says hello. Hello back to you, Joseph C. Thank you, Joseph D. Thank you very much for making it. So the Magpie is ending Marcelo's stream right now. So maybe some of the people will come a little bit over to us to listen to some watch talk. I'm still struggling to stay below the 1 hour mark that we had as a goal. But maybe I'm gonna make it tonight if OC or Patek Philippe are not hopping on. So we have here Patek Chris with a brand fresh wrench. Hello, Patek Chris back. I hope that you're doing well. And my favorite simp is here already, Zeppy, who is always sucking up to me because he's afraid of losing his wrench. So a little bit of a recap, yes, from yesterday's show, because I screwed up a little bit with the pictures. So Patek Philippe reminded me to tell you a little bit about the Patek Philippe World Time. By the way, it's a world time and not a world timer. I'm doing that mistake all the time. But the proper pronunciation, or the proper name, is world time. So yeah, we were. Zeppy is wearing his Grand Seiko white bitch. No, it's white birch. Just for you, fuck off, Higgy. Actually, the white birch, in my opinion, is a beautiful Grand Seiko with that modern case. So, do you have the old No, that is a new movement already. So, is it spring drive or automatic high beat? My beef with the white birch is that it's virtually a gray birch, and I hope that Grand Seiko issues that dial pattern in white and black, just like a birch is. I think that monochrome silver tone is not doing it justice. So Zappy says non-spring, so the high beat version of it. So Patel Philippe says, I call it a world timer now. You're free to call it anyhow. Um, we forgive you for being a newbie.
No, I picked up the term because you keep saying it. World timer, world timer, world timer. So I just thought calling it a world timer now.
Okay. So it was my bad. I was cornering that term. You
I
think?
think you're the influencer,
No shit.
you're the new elite watch guru calling it world timer. I
All the
love
e-
you
all the
have to
evil
put this
comes from
watch
the
up too,
Higgy.
right? Higgy baby, you have to put this watch up too. Of all watches, you have to put the one that stings the most.
What do you mean?
Well, you know I wanted the platinum world time,
Yeah.
and I love this watch. I think this watch is just they just did it right. I like the casual strap. I like the guilloche pattern on this dial is amazing.
Mhm.
And like you said yesterday, the lugs, right? Like I really feel that the 5330 fell very short on the lugs aspect of it. One thing I think we didn't cover is I also believe that the case of the 5330 is stamped. Given the
Mhm.
fact that the lugs are the two-step lugs, similar to the 5212 case, it's a stamped case.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously with these lugs, it's not a stamped case.
Yeah.
You can easily tell, right? So
Those are separate lugs that are then welded on the case. Actually, I've seen drawing at Anders in Genève, and it's not only welded on. So basically, what they're doing is they drill holes, square holes in the case, in that case ring. So those lugs have a kind of cubic counterpart that you don't see, and that cubic counterpart then fits into that gap in the case, and then it's being welded. So it is very stable, very rigid, and it's a lot of work. Was that understandable? What I was trying to explain?
yeah, I was thinking about the new version, right? And if you see here, this is the previous version in 38.5 mil. Looks pretty good to me in terms of like the design. You can see the movements, a decent size for the case. When they changed it to the new version, they went to a 40 mil case. So it's interesting because in Archie's version, they went from 37 to his version at 39.5. In the last gen version, they dropped it to 38.5, and now they bumped it back up to 40. By pushing it to 40, they've had to add the date, which, like I said yesterday, I think is, I mean, I don't know what they're trying to solve by adding a date to a world time. I really, honestly, I thought about it yesterday after the show, and I thought, you know, does adding a date really, does it really enhance it for me? And I actually felt that the watch was totally fine as a no date. Some watches are just better as a no date. I know there's a huge Submariner following that for them, the no date is the Submariner. They don't call it the no date. They actually call it the Submariner because
Yeah,
that's what the Submariner was, right?
that's how it started. It yes. So yeah, if you're calling it a non-date Submariner, you're basically a little bit ignorant of the history of the Submariner. I
So you're
agree
missing
with you.
the shtick that America pulls on every channel. He asks for a wrench on every channel. Now, it seems like you've mission accomplished, America, on the Elite
Actually,
Horology channel. So it's all good. He said
yeah,
wrench secured.
I was working to this morning a little bit on wrenches, so
Nah,
I wrenched some
America's fine.
people. Yeah.
America likes his
Mhm.
watches, so he's good. He's good.
Yeah, but be careful. We expect working wrenches here, so if anybody misbehaves, just kick them. And we are not the channel that go then after the mods. If we disagree, we discreetly contact mods and say, "Oh, we don't agree with that." But our mods and our panelists always have our back. So we are not throwing anybody under the bus here.
Yesterday, America said he liked I don't know, Jonathan, if you can pull up the 50th, the new version or the leak version or what have you. He said he liked the new sportier version. And when I kind of look at the platinum version of the 5230, I think from a sporty perspective, this is pretty nice. Casual strap, blue, different type of guilloche. When you see this watch in person, and Russ is, he told me before I bought my World Time that the Platinum, he says is a stunning example. And so I feel that this is sporty enough. I think they may have just stretched too far on the new World Time. But look, it also may attract a new buyer like America who says, hey, it's actually a cool watch and now I like it, right? Where previously he may not have purchased the previous iteration of the World Time.
Yeah, I think your ego is a little bit hurt that the new watch is a little bit nicer than you expected. No, I'm just joking. Um,
Yuri Leibovitz is saying an interesting creation by Patek. Thanks, Higgy, for explaining the complex assembly process of the lugs.
Thank you. I hope that it was understandable with my chopped
This isn't it.
English.
Sorry.
But you
I must.
can see here what Patel is talking about on that luck at 4. You can see that it's seamless. So the assumption I think is right that this is a stamped out case, and then they're forging out, or they're drilling out then more of the contours. But this is a one piece case mid.
In terms of yeah, like stamp case, look, not everybody cares about that, but this watch is going to be, it's going to be pricey. It's 40, $50,000. It's not going to be cheap, right? So there's certain expectations at that level when you're spending. Like I spent what, mid 30s, low 30s for mine, but I got a hand guilloche dial. In white gold, you're looking at this where you lose the hand guilloche dial, you get a stamp dial. Now you have a stamped case. It's been increased to 40 to accommodate the date. You got a pointer date. Like it's not, in my opinion, luxury. I don't see this as very luxurious. I see this as, look, a contemporary method for Patek to attract a buyer that, like, look, their whole MO is we want precious metal and we're not going to go away from our dress watches. So they're looking to bridge the gap by really attracting buyers that would look at this in a more sporty way. I think it misses the essence of the world time personally, but like I said, OC liked it yesterday. America liked it yesterday. Thomas didn't like it. It was a bit of a split panel.
Yeah.
Higgins, what was your take? Like as an overall watch, like do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you think?
I like it overall, and I think you're a little bit too defensive for the old model because, first of all, the old model doesn't need it. Those lugs are gorgeous, they are unique, and they are not being repeated with a new model. So the old model doesn't need any defense. In my opinion, the old model that I just showed is less confusing. It's a little bit clearer and plain, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, the modern version I really like. I think it will find its buyers, and maybe it attracts a younger crowd who are not Patek Philippe traditionalists, and they probably move to that watch. We the sales success I think is pre-programmed because yeah, it's inspired by that chronograph. It was selling very well, and I have no doubts that the new world time without the chronograph will find their customers as well.
So America 5726 is asking, what is the panel's opinion on the 5935A? So I have the 5935A. For those that don't know, Patek references A signifies a steel piece. So this is a world time chronograph in steel, very similar dial, stamped carbon motif dial as the 5330 updated world time. Obviously, that new one does not have a chronograph. This one does. So look, Jonathan, obviously this is a video. I'll pull up the actual watch. Now, this watch is different in the sense that it has the lugs that you were describing
Mm.
in the previous, whether it's the 5230 or the cloisonné dial version. So, from a case design, America, I think that this is very similar to the previous iteration. Really cool. I like it. These have actually come down significantly on the secondary market. I think you can pick these up now, like in the 50s, high 50s, and whatnot, which is actually a really good deal. I look, from what I've heard of this watch. I've seen this watch in person. I like the concept of it. I'm not a huge. I just don't think the salmon looks really that great in person on this watch. So look, nice piece. I like it. Steel world time chronograph, going to be rare, I assume. But again, this is what I kind of told OC yesterday. It's a bit of a recycling of the part spin. This whole dial is like, it's not revolutionary on the 5330. They're literally just taking the one from the world time
Yeah.
chronograph, which isn't even a popular model, by the way. Like it's really not a popular model. Vimal, I agree, but the problem is India, are my favorite country, unfortunately, only does 30-minute time zones. India has a singular time zone now. But if you look back in the day, and I'm going to pull up a Patek 2523 for you, Vimal. Um, I'm going to show you a bit of the time zones that existed, and this is the cool part about world times, guys. Is world times are really time capsules.
Yeah,
So this is a 2523, one of the legendary Patek Philippe world times. As you can see here in the lugs, this is why Jonathan and I are
yeah.
talking about the lugs, and maybe OC didn't really understand what we were saying yesterday. Was this is a classic lug design on the this is a very famous serially produced world time, and the lugs of either the 5935 we just saw or the 5230 is based on loosely on this design. Now for Vimal, you can see here, we do have a time zone for Bombay as well as Sri Lanka, and then you have a time zone for Calcutta. So if you see from back in the day in India, there were multiple time zones. Calcutta used to actually be the capital of the British Raj. Potentially even this watch made it. I don't know if this is a post, if it's a post partition watch or if it's pre partition, but when the British Raj was there, Calcutta was the actual capital. So you have Bombay and Calcutta, whereas in today's world time, as I show back on this screen, as Vimal pointed out, you have India doesn't have a 30-minute time zone. So you see Karachi, which is in Pakistan, is 1 hour. Then you kind of skip the half-hour time zone in India, and then you go to Dhaka, which is in Bangladesh, which is an hour ahead. So yeah, Vimal, I agree with you. I would love to see another Indian city. Jonathan, I think you do have an Indian city on your dial, so if you want to show Vimal your world time, that would be pretty cool. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the picture. I'm just giving out a warning. Whenever you are asking Patek Philippe question combined with India, he will not stop talking. So this is the
Well, hey,
disclaimer
I
for
mean,
tonight.
I bought my perpetual calendar for Vimal. If you don't know the story, Patek Philippe had made a piece unique perpetual calendar, 1591, and I think if Jonathan's going to take his time, I'm going to pull that up for you to see. So this is and I have it up on the screen. I'll have it up on the screen here in a second. This is a piece unique Patek Philippe perpetual calendar in steel, and it was created or made, quote unquote, in this article from Revolutionary Watch for a quote unquote Maharaja. And there's actually a really cool story because this watch, ABC, has told a story on Archie's channel on how this watch actually ended up with I think, extended family member or whatnot. But long story short, Patek Philippe created this watch for a Maharaja in India. It was the first, I think it was the first water resistant self winding perpetual calendar. And if you see the layout, it's a very interesting layout. You got Arabic numerals, syringe hands. You have center seconds, which is quite unusual for a world time a perpetual calendar. So yeah, so when he says, hey, whenever it comes about India, yeah, like I bought my 5320 perpetual calendar because it was designed after this watch, which obviously has Indian heritage. So Vimal, I definitely have a big bias towards India and some Indian inspired pieces, but
In the
yeah, I
meantime,
don't
I
know.
found the picture that you
Yeah, if you could
requested.
pull it up, that'd be great. Yeah, I do want to show Vimal your world time because it does have I think it has an Indian city on it.
So yeah, so I'm trying to adjust that format a little bit. So
Yeah.
this is my world time, which is not called a world time. That is BCHH Celestial Voyager, created by Benjamin G, made by Anders and Genève. This is a totally custom-made watch. So basically, what I did is I took the base design of the watch, and then I approached the maker and said, I want this, 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 and all the cities on the city ring have been personally chosen by me. It was a lot of work to work out which city belongs to which time zone, keeping in mind daylight saving time and not. And I was working very hard with vintage Pateks with personal preference. And yeah, so a combination of that is then the city ring of my particular watch. So when we're talking about Indian cities, I deliberately chose. Deliberately chose to have Bombay on the dial. I know that that the official term or the official name, contemporary name, is Mumbai. I grew up. I'm now 59. I grew up in times where it was called Bombay, and I have a hard time to adjust that. I also, being a European who has never been to India, and I know that this will be a subject for criticism, but we Europeans here have a very romanticized image of India, probably influenced by the colonialism from the UK. So we hold those city names in a pretty romantic regard, no matter how cruel and deplorable the colonization really was. So to me, it was my choice was to use the name that I grew up with it, and world timers are a romantic complication. So the purpose is you see those cities and you have an image in your head, be it the image that you learn story about your childhood, or be it in an image that you've been to a particular place, or be it in an image that you always lust to be there. And one of my goals in my life is to travel India, to visit India, and that is why I chose Bombay. I totally understand when people disagree with me, but this is my watch, so I don't care.
Can I bring up an interesting point? So Vimal obviously is
Mhm.
thanking us for obviously the detailed answer, but on your watch you do have Maldives and you have Bombay, right? So Vimal's question was, or his comment was, and I'll pull it back up. Given the state of economic power, he feels that the dial should replace Karachi, which is a city in Pakistan,
Mm.
with Bombay, which is a city in India. And on your world time, so Maldives, you can see on John. I don't know if you can zoom it up in a bit, but you can see on his world time dial at the
It's
top.
it's tough because
Yeah, no, that's good,
when I
that's good,
zoom
that's good.
in,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, no,
losing
this is
it.
good. Just
Mhm.
if you can just go down just go down
I
a bit so I can.
can't. I
Oh, you can.
can't.
Okay, zoom out a little bit if you can. Yeah. So, anyways, you can see Maldives and you can see Bombay at the top of his dial. So Maldives is in the Karachi time zone. The Bombay is a half hour ahead. So your world time uses, I'm assuming, is it taking 24 principal time zone? And is it also doing like, because there's a half hour difference between Maldives and Bombay, not an hour, right? So your world time seems to be accounting for 30-minute time zones as well.
Hmm. On my research, I didn't go there, or I didn't find it there. I think, as far as I know, Maldives and Bombay are on full time zones.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just daylight savings. I don't know, but I think that they're
Mm.
they're half. Well, at least
It's
right now
half.
they're a half hour
I'm
difference. Yeah.
I'm aware of the problem with half time zones because I was considering having Darwin on the dial, which is on a half time zone, and the first draft was to have then not a regular spacing of the dots. We then were thinking about a half dot, but then Darwin was removed from the city ring, so we didn't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Vimal's pointing out the fact that like Karachi and Dhaka are like very. I mean, they're not economic powers for a brand like Patek Philippe, right? Like having an Indian city on the dial, whether it's New Delhi, Bombay. Calcutta made sense on the vintage one because, like I mentioned at the time, Calcutta was the capital of the British Raj, so obviously it should be on the dial. But he does have a point that like India is a up and coming economics, or potentially economic superpower. So it would make sense for a brand to have that on the dial, not two other countries that probably don't have it. But like I said, it's that half hour time zone that's the problem for India. They only have one time zone.
Yep.
What's going on, Danny?
Yo, Tan. I just thought I'd come on and see how much Iggy paid for this watch from Alibaba.
It's not an Alibaba watch, unfortunately. I paid a lot. So if you go with that degree of customization, you're talking about 75,000 euros. Keep in mind the watch case is in platinum,
What were
which
that? 75,000 rupees. So what does that work out at?
euros, rupees may buy you a curry.
Mm, so
Oh,
70 quid.
Danny loves himself a curry, man. Every night, Danny's like,
Yep.
I'm asking him to send me food. I'm like, Danny, what are you eating tonight? He's like, I'm eating a balti chicken or a garlic lamb or a ginger lamb or something. I don't know. Danny's always eating good Indian food, man.
Always. Can't
Danny,
beat it.
are you up for some Indian food when I'm meeting Patel Philippe?
Well, I don't know if that'll meet my standards because it's a bit different cooking in London.
Danny's
Ah,
from the real area of the. He's from around the Curry Mile, maybe. So he knows the way curry should taste. So I think
you're a
Danny,
fuzzy eater?
he's gonna be very selective. Yes, I think.
Ah,
Yeah, they can't give me no bug fuzzy curry.
Look,
welcome to the elitists.
Dodger's saying he's seen the receipt for this watch for $10. So
Yeah, he
yeah,
wished.
I would be interested to maybe ping Anderson, Genève, and just find out the difference between Maldives and Bombay, because I always thought Maldives was in the same time zone as Karachi, but
Well, it's
you know,
very easy. We can ask Google, and we can do
ask
that
Google.
live. So
Is
1 second.
Maldives in the same?
No, just type in local time in on Maldives.
It's well, I just googled it. It says if you live in
Mhm.
Karachi, blah 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 blah. This is between, since Maldives is in the same zone. Yeah, so it's supposed to be in the same time zone as Karachi. So that doesn't make sense because Bombay is not an hour ahead of Karachi. Bombay is half an hour. India only has one time zone. It's a half-hour time zone.
Damn. Yeah. So
So I
you're
don't
saying
know.
I made a mistake by creating that,
I
or
don't know,
does
Vimal, if you're around and if you know, like I haven't been to India in a long time, and
yeah?
I think that it's off, but yeah, it just seems like Bombay's, maybe the mechanism is made for that you have a half-hour time zone. I don't know, but
No, the mechanism is not made for half an hour time zone. It is not clicking just like the Patek Philippe. Basically, you turn the city ring with the second crown, so
right.
that shouldn't be a problem. Now, 1 second. Time.
Iggy, do you think you'll ever buy a proper like Patek Philippe watch instead of this watch from
Uh,
Alibaba?
that is a good question. So I I'm a fan of the Patek Philippe cloisonné, but those are unobtainable. And if you buy them on the secondary market, you're paying around 110,000 for one gray market, and it has a yellow gold case, so
Well,
Yeah,
it's not platinum.
that's
Daniel,
small. Oh, Iggy, that's small time for you, mate. You've got that fucking 250 grand
Yeah,
Vacheron
but
non-complication
this
watch.
is not my normal watch purchase. And after I received that super expensive Lange watch, I really told myself to slow down and to calm down. And this has an economic reason because I simply don't have the money to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars on watches. And
Mm.
secondly, I came from watches that are cheaper than yours. For example, Danny, I was wearing a Rolex GMT Master 16750 in steel for many
Mhm.
years. That I purchased that for 4,000 US dollars. So I'm coming from that price range. The fact that I love those independents, those fancy watches, doesn't mean that I have the wallet for them. And the Celestial Voyager that you have here on the picture, that was a stretch. That was my most expensive watch that I
Mhm.
bought. Then I bought that super expensive Lange, which is even more expensive. But that's it. I can't continue like that. I'm
So
gonna
that
face bankruptcy.
so that Lange you've got, it's got the same system as my toilet and it, ball and chain, same complication.
Fusee and chain, baby. We got a few comments
Basically,
here, guys.
yes.
I just want to keep
Are
up with the chat.
Oh
We got a
yeah,
few comments. Sorry, guys.
are you
Vimal
having a
is,
chain or a rope?
he's got a fucking
I've,
plunger, man. He's got a plunger for his toilet. So Vimal is saying that Maldives and is the same time zone as Karachi, so it is,
It is
the difference
half.
is half an hour. Yeah, like you should look into that because I that's one thing Vimal I didn't troll him on. I did troll him on a few things like Bermudas. That's not Bermudas, it's Bermuda. He put Bermudas on the watch above or between New
Yeah,
York and Rio de Janeiro.
yeah.
I trolled him on that, but and you have one more thing here. A question from America, Jonathan, for you. Who did the cloisonnet on this piece?
Well, the watch is made by Anders in Genève. I've met the enamelist. Her name is Benedict. I'm not telling the company, but I met the person who made that cloisonné dial for me. Yes.
is that Vimal? Is that Munabay in it? The Chaudhry?
I think, yeah, Vimal's. I think he's from Tim's channel, but
I like that guy. I think it's that guy. I like that guy. Is
yeah,
it
no,
the
I
guy
mean,
that stands up for what he believes in?
I think he is. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I
him.
like that guy.
Who you don't like, Danny? I mean, you're a
Yeah,
snowflake. Let's be honest. You like everybody, don't you?
yeah. You know what? You're probably right. I ain't got a problem with anyone.
Yeah. So you're not the Higgy type who is a little bit like Ernst Stavro Blofeld stroking his cat, sitting behind his desk, and just trying to take over the world. So you're a little bit different.
There's no point falling out with people on the internet. Is this? I don't get it. To be honest, it's
Yeah.
pointless.
Did you actually have a
Super.
topic prepared, Higgy? Like I know that you were talking to the chat when I hijacked the show, but
I have a topic prepared, but I can do that another day
okay.
because I find that question really interesting. I hope that that the panel agrees. So Billie Jeans is asking, panel, if you had 250K for watches, would you buy one and done or put a collection together?
I'd put a collection together.
Yeah, I don't think I could do one and done for me personally. Like I could do 2 or 3 maybe, but I couldn't do one. So no, I'd probably do a 3-piece at 250. I wouldn't even do a 2-piece.
The thing is, this
Oh,
isn't really a question because you buy stuff first to get to this level of buying a watch at that price. You won't your first watch. You won't spend that much on it.
yeah, it's also to keep in mind 250K means that there is a high level of artisan handcraft craftsmanship. So, for example, my Lange that is around 150,000 euros, it doesn't even have a shock resorber. Tourbillons don't have that shock resorber, so it's very tough to have that as a one and done. And those super complicated high-end finished watches depends a little bit on what you want, Billie Jeans. So, for example, if you can get a Recepi chronomètre contemporain for 250K, my advice is get this and wear it forever. So it depends a little bit on your taste, but as a general rule of thumb, I would also say buy one around 120 maybe, so one highlight, and then fill it up with other watches.
Yeah, I mean, you went even extra length, didn't you? You bought like that Lange for that much money, and it don't even have a complication.
No,
So
no, three-hander. So so Higgy Baba wants to show the Recepi chronomètre contemporain. That is the hottest shit at the moment from independent watchmaking. He's the darling of the collectors, and in my opinion, that chronomètre contemporain is absolutely smashing. I had the privilege to wear this watch on my wrist last summer, and there is a picture of me wearing it, and I had goosebumps. I couldn't believe that I would ever have this watch on the wrist, and it's just
Is
smashing
this
fantastic.
this is the prototype, right? Because this is
Yes,
number
that's a
00.
prototype. Yeah,
Have you seen this one exactly, the exact one 00R?
I had this watch on the wrist.
Yeah,
That is a prototype.
so guys, I'm zooming in here on the prototype because when Jonathan Jonathan, you went to Recepi's manufacturer, I think last
Yes.
summer, and
Mhm.
so when Jonathan was done, he sent me photos and he prefaced it saying, "Hey, this is a prototype," because he knew I was immediately going to go into the finishing and be like, "What the heck is going on here?"
We know
But Jonathan,
you. We know you.
yeah, Jonathan, why don't you walk us through this because you've seen this prototype in person. You were
Yes.
invited by Recepi. You spent a day with his wife. So why don't you walk us through this?
Yeah, to before Russ is going after me, I wasn't invited. Russ was invited, and Russ couldn't make it. And at that time, I was visiting the enamelist in Switzerland who made them my cloisonné dial. And Russ asked me, "Do you want to join?" And I said, "Of course I do," because Recepi is just like Philippe Dufour, probably a young Philippe Dufour. So of course, and he gave me then the contact. I contacted them. They were totally okay. They gave me a timed window of 30 minutes. So we drove down to Geneva, very hot, beautiful summer day. We walked to the old part of Geneva, which is beautiful. Everybody who visits Geneva, go to the old part that is a little bit elevated. So go to the old core where Recepi has his workshop, Acrevia. So we went there, and Recep's wife took care of us. And from 30 minutes talk, we were talking for 2 hours. It was such a pleasant meeting. And Patek Philippe is just highlighting the anglage. So when we're talking about high-end movement decoration, we're talking about anglage. When I started selling watches, that anglage was an angle 45 degrees on all bridges. There was not much rounding. It was straight cases, straight borders. But then this art has been perfected, and Recepi makes anglage just like nobody else. It is so deep, it is rounded, and Patel is pointing to internal angles, or so those are internal angles that are really difficult to make, and that is the specialty of Recepi. And I hear the angels sing when I see this particular watch.
Yeah, well, so when Jonathan says difficult to make, so I'll break this down in layman's terms for folks. When we look at finishing, what to look for when you're looking at finishing. Obviously, this is a prototype, so not going to be amazing. But when you see, what they call Geneva stripes, right? You're gonna look at the bridges. You're gonna look for vertical stripes. Not always vertical. You can have circular Cote de Genève. You see that sometimes on the Patek rotors, but you have linear Cote de Genève there. We were talking about anglage, so that's the beveling on the bridges, the edges of the bridges. And so when Jonathan says, when we talk about inward or internal angles, so that's a sharp internal angle here. And it's not possible to do that level of finishing with a machine. Jonathan, I think it's a zinc paste, and is it a diamond paste or zinc? I'm not sure.
It's a
And they use
diamond paste applied on a piece of wood.
on wood, right? So think of like a piece of wood, and someone's going by hand and polishing by hand, and making these really wide angles of polishing. That is the time consuming part when we talk about anglage.
I don't like the fact that half the case back is literally covered up from the beautiful movement, to be honest.
Yeah, so there's going to be
bridge. That is the main. Hello, Jock. By the way, that is the main bridge, and it covers two mainspring barrels. That is why that bridge is so big. It has to deal with a lot of torque, and that's the reason why it's shaped like that.
All right, so let me finish here, guys. So anglage is, again, beveling on the bridges. Again, very hard to do this inward angle by machine. You have to you do it by hand, use a piece of wood, and it's very time consuming. This is very wide levels of anglage, okay? Then you have, obviously, different levels of finishing in terms of perlage. You can see perlage on the base plate here as well.
Can I interrupt you for once? Maybe you put the highlight, because even the spokes of those toothed wheels have internal angles that are handmade. So a watch like that has around, I think, 130 internal angles.
Right. You want to be looking for internal angles that are being hand finished, right? But again, you have polishing on the jewel sinks. You have, perlage on the base plate. This is standard stuff you're going to see. Black polishing. When we talk about black polishing, you see the screw head right here, how it's not reflecting light at all, versus this one over here on the right. That's a pure black polished screw head. So when you ever hear Jonathan and I arguing about black polishing, that's what it looks like. It just does not reflect light except for at a certain angle. So,
and it takes hours to black polish a screw head. So this is not done within 5 minutes. It takes hours.
Right. So this is what you look for when you're inspecting a watch for finishing, right? You're looking at the anglage. Are there internal angles? When you're looking at a Patek Philippe, a Vacheron, an AP, stuff that's probably what the old Geneva seal standard was, like, you're not going to find, sharp internal angles. You're going to find rounded edges like Jonathan described. So if you look at your Patek, you're not going to see this internal angle. You're just going to see kind of a rounded edge, right? Which means that Patek and these other brands, they likely start the finishing by machine, and then they go into doing it by hand. Go ahead, Jock. Sorry.
What's round about the edge? It's sharp.
No, if you look at a Patek, right, a Patek movement. Let me see if I can pull one up here.
So cheaper watchmakers, when we're talking about cheaper, we're talking here high horology, extreme
I'm sorry,
horology.
I'm not.
Yeah, like you'll see here, like these are very rounded, right? Like it's not sharp.
Yeah,
these it's all rounded.
But what I seen from the case back there was very sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull up a Patek 240 movement for you to see, Jock, to understand what I mean by rounded versus sharp.
Yeah, that's it, Tam. Bring up a proper watch so Iggy can see what a proper watch is.
I'm sorry that the fact of the matter is the watch you had up there for like an hour pretty much was sharp edges.
So this is the same movement that's in my world time, right? So everything is round, right? You don't see anything sharp. So meaning, Jock, what they did is they started the finishing of the edges by machine.
The one that we had up before. And
the one, yeah. So the Recepi, if you look at the Recepi, you can see obviously very sharp angles.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sharp. What's wrong about that?
There's nothing wrong about it.
There's nothing wrong. That is basically what differentiates
Like you said, it's all
a
I'm not again. I have
a
no idea what I'm
high-end
talking
finished
about
watch.
in a way. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
turn on.
So when you see a sharp angled jock, that means there's a lot more hand finishing involved in it. When you see rounded edges, like on this Patek, like I mentioned, started by machine, finished by hand, but not as much work going into it. And that's really what you're paying for when you're buying a
Mhm.
Recepi, right? You're paying for that extra labor that they're putting into it.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I don't know if you disagree or if you agree.
No, I totally agree. I'm just trying to find a macro shot of a highly finished Recepi that we can see again the
Relationship
anglage.
is
Those
beautiful. Like I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's fine.
so that is the differentiator, and that is what elite horology is about. And people are asking, why is the Holy Trinity or the Geneva seal not enough? We are here after independent who are really true into high-end watchmaking, and if you see the anglage here on that bridge, you can see that this is exceptional, and
But,
this
I
is
mean,
true
you
art.
can't. I mean, the movement, the rotors, everything is stunning. Like you can't get better.
No, at the
Beautiful.
moment, this is the best that
Jesus
you
Christ.
can get. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
also a different like when I did this show about why do people buy Independence versus like Trinity, for example, right? Like it's also what are you looking to get? While this is, Jock, if you think about it from a beauty perspective, extremely beautiful, a Patek Philippe's going to run -3 +2 per day, right? Extremely accurate as your superlative chronometer, basically.
yeah.
So Recepi's watch, this watch could run probably could run +15 a day, and just not have the same tolerance level. Whereas when you buy a Trinity, like there's a certain standard that they understand that the market wants. You want an accurate watch as well. So you're getting both beauty and accuracy with Patek. Here, you're buying more art. Like this is really either you're in the bespoke category or you're seeking handmade art, is what I'm
All right,
seeing.
all right.
It don't make it
Tad,
work any better. It just
how much is that
more
watch?
quality
How much is
finish.
that watch right now? I don't even know the price up.
The normal
Percent.
price of this particular watch, it's also three-hander, is 130,000 euros.
Crazy, yeah.
The first watch
Three-hander.
was a lot cheaper though, right? This is the version
And you
2.
know what, guys? I mean, look. I'll be honest. Like with you, I love you, Tan and Higgy. It's like I get a Rolex. I'm like, it's like for me, Horology is the best thing I can get.
Mm.
Yeah, these beautiful fucking pieces are so expensive.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm not saying in a bad way. It's just like, my God.
yeah,
You see
just
Horology, Higgy, right? And I get
yeah,
it, what you have and what you're into.
This is a good question for
yeah.
America. Do Patek's dress pieces have a reputation of being reliable and durable? So, America, I wear all of my watches very often. The World Time I've had literally on the wrist almost every day. Look, as long as you're not, and the same thing with your Rolexes, right? As long as you're not doing stupid shit. Yeah, like honestly, is it as robust as a steel Rolex? No, right? But could you use it as a watch? Absolutely, you can, right? Like I use them all the time. I use steel watches of Pateks. I use precious metals, and
I mean,
they're
look at
fine.
the thing.
So,
It's just sitting there like
so
nothing.
Tan, if it was raining, like really heavily raining,
Yep.
and you had your 5196 on, would it kill
Yep.
the watch?
Well, it would kill the strap, right? It would kill the strap.
Yeah,
of the
but
watch.
that's just a strap. I mean, you can change strap.
No,
can't you?
I mean,
But
yeah,
the
no.
watch.
There's a difference of water resistance. So certain Pateks are dust resistant, and therefore, yes, you wouldn't be able to take them out in the rain. But those are like the very, very special high end.
That's crazy to me,
Yeah.
though.
But
You
every
can't
other
take
one.
a watch in the
No.
rain.
Yeah, but understand, Jock, that's a very special model, right? Like
Yeah, I get that, but then
it's
you
made
have
for
to.
that. But the standard, what he's talking about, is 30 meter resistant, totally fine in the rain. But you would
You know what?
definitely
I'll
kill
be
the
honest.
strap because the strap is.
Yeah, but
It's its
I'll
own
be
mother.
honest with you, Tan and Higgy. A high-end watch, Horology to me was Rolex. Okay, for me that's my pinnacle of high-end. Because if a guy from a fucking place of nothing that I got the fact to be able to buy that for me is a Horology. I know people say it's like, oh, it's not Horology, it's not part of the Trinity, etc. But for me, that is like I have the chance to
Now,
buy
look,
a
Jock,
watch like that.
it's what you like and it's what you sought after. There's
But I
absolutely
love
nothing wrong with
these
that.
pieces, but I don't. Everyone, you don't agree with it. I'm like, what? I'm looking at the thing, going, my head's tilting. Like, what? How is that worth that much money? You know,
Well, we're trying to explain that, and it's too
I
bad
get
that I
that, but
can't
then I'm
zoom
looking
in
at it,
even
it's just
more,
different. There's different
because if you,
angles. Okay,
yeah,
there's different angles in what you
yeah,
like. It's beautiful,
yeah,
absolutely
just
stunning. But
yeah, just another example, those toothed wheels, for example. A watchmaker is taking a special tool, which looks a little bit like the bow on a violin, and he's polishing those gaps between those
yeah,
tooths within hours. So
yes, I
each
get that.
single tooth is polished by hand.
Let
You
me
can't do
make
that
a
with a machine.
simple analogy for Jock. Jock, it's the difference between a Corvette and a McLaren, is what it
Yeah,
is. Corvette's
okay,
a
I get it.
Rolex. This is a McLaren. McLarens are
Oh,
handmade.
bro, don't you dare say my Rolex a fucking
I love
McLaren.
Corvettes. I got nothing wrong with the Corvette. You don't like the
Ah,
well. Okay,
Corvette, you
you're
fucking mad,
You're a
bro.
Mopar guy. You're a
You would be
Mopar guy.
better than a
I get the.
Corvette. You serious?
But
At
that's
least
what
you're
it
better
is.
than
It's a Corvette. It's a Corvette and a McLaren, right?
Fuck
McLarens are
the
handmade.
Corvette. No, I get it.
But
I
you know,
get
it's
it.
funny. It's funny because look, I highly recommend you watch a video on JM on cars. He did a Manchester McLaren like debrief video where Manchester McLaren is telling customers, making them sign documents that the car is going to be fucked up because it's handmade. Straight up, like they made the customers sign a document saying, "Hey, your panels may not line up because it's a handmade car." Like some
That's
straight
bullshit.
bullshit. So you
No,
should watch
no,
that video.
no,
It's really
no,
funny.
it's never like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, Higgy. We took over a bit of car talk here. My bad.
No,
I know, I'm
no
sorry.
problem with car talk. But I think Jock is asking legitimate questions, and there is nothing wrong owning a Rolex. Actually, it's an aspirational piece for many, and even more can't even afford that. So I'm totally aware that we are talking here about the top high-end level of horology. But that is my personal passion. That is my personal love,
But this
and
thing,
that is,
Iggy,
yeah.
I love the fact that you have it and you're able to enjoy it. And it's the same with, like, say, and I'm not bringing Marcelo, but the fact you get watches or like you had when you save for a while or you got that piece you have. It's amazing to me. I like the fact I'm in a community of people you can experience these amazing timepieces. But we don't have some people don't have the means to have them. But it's nice to be part of a place where you can talk about them.
Can I ask you one question, Jock? So for you, kind of like, what do you? We always kind of think about this, like, what's next, right? So I've seen your Wimbledon Datejust. I was fortunate to be able to try it on. I know that you have a Submariner
Oh,
as
mate, come
well.
on, bro. My
I'm just
watches,
asking,
man.
like, what do you think next? Like, for your in that Rolex sphere, or maybe another brand. Like, what do you think?
The
What would you
Bumblebee
want next?
GMT. I'm
GMT?
going to Japan. I'm going to go see Marcelo for my wife's and me our anniversary. We're going to go watch shopping, and I want to get the Bumblebee, the GMT. That's my next.
I think the Bumblebee
But
GMT is great.
basically, why it's high-end horology, Jock, is because, like Iggy's just said, the polishing in between every crevice in this, the polishing, finishing the screws off, so it's a better finish. Whereas, like Rolex, I love Rolex. Rolex are, for me, it's just a generic movement, putting it that they've done, and it's finished. Whereas these, they're going over the top.
Oh yeah.
Polishing the cogs, they're rounding the screws off. The screws won't make it work any better. It'll work the same, but it's just
No.
a better finish. It's like
Yeah,
if you went to like a Rolex to an Invicta, it's same sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're making a good point, Danny, because this is decoration. So we're talking about decoration. This doesn't necessarily increase the performance or the precision of this particular watch. However, you said it. Rolex is an industrially produced product. They're making 1.2 million watches per year. Recepi is doing 40 per year. So that is the difference. And of course, if you
40 watches.
if your company would have
Wait,
to
they only make 40 watches a
Yeah,
year.
like Jock, think of it as like a Pagani, right, compared to like a Ferrari, which makes more mass
I
produced.
know what you're saying. I
Yeah.
get that. Yeah. That's mad.
And
40
they have
watches a year.
around 10 watchmakers sitting there, and I tell you they're not playing poker during that time.
I'm not.
It's like buying a vase from IKEA and then buying a vase from Mike the Snake.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually true because you're getting a handmade product. Curly asked for a red. I think he asked for a red vase and ended up getting a blue one or something, right? That's what happens in a handmade life, right?
Yeah. No, I fully understand it. Don't get Iggy or Tan wrong that they're not talking like snobby fuckers and saying, "Oh, my watch is better because of this." They're talking about the passion of it, about
Tan
why.
you know what, mate? Like Tan and Higgy. Like I love watches, and the fact of being able to go to a Rolex and buy a Rolex was the best. I felt like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, I get people are different in their different genres and what you can able to get and etc. But my God, I feel like a fucking billionaire, bro. When I got
Like even Magpie's question or comment, right? Like it's kind of what America was asking, right? Is the Patek robust? Is it durable? Like, look, all of your it's like the difference between buying a
it's
G
not,
wagon.
it's
Well, no,
not.
you're buying a G wagon or you're buying a sports car, right? You're getting two really nice, vehicles, but one has a different purpose than the other. You know.
How mad is it
Yeah.
though that you're telling my watch a Ford Focus that's like 14,000?
I called it a Corvette, and you were still raged about that. So,
Well, I think the Magpie has a point when we're talking about mass production, industrial production. I think the comparison with the Ford Focus is a little bit off. I would compare Rolex more with a Mercedes or with a BMW, and
Yes,
here
I
we're
think so.
talking now a
I get that.
Pagani. So
I get that.
I think that is an equivalent comparison.
But
No.
Jock, they're not. Don't take it like, oh, it's not an achievement buying yourself a Rolex, which is a lot of money. They're really
think
not
they
saying that. It's because they are really passionate about watches. They're talking about how the movements have been finished, how the casings have been finished.
I'm not dissing. I'm not like feeling like I'm less than them. Of course, I'm not. It's not that.
no,
It's just
like
such a
the reason
crazy
the
space.
the reason why I constantly am doing the car analogy, Jock, is not because I'm trying to patronize you or anything. All I'm saying
No,
is
of course not.
it's like it's like I've seen in car meets when like a Pagani shows up, or you see a Pagani rolling around in a city center, right? Not everybody knows what that is, but you got a freaking Aventador or you got a Ferrari that rolls through. Everybody knows what it is. That's the difference, right?
It's like unworthy.
Exactly. You got your Rolex, which is an aspirational piece to I think most people, right? So when you roll through the Rolex, like everybody knows what it is. Whereas these other watches, people buy them for a different purpose. And that's the purpose they serve, right? And I think that's why I think a lot of Rolex
It's
folks misunderstand it because they're like, well,
I get
maybe they're
that.
seeking a different thing than what these offer.
I understand that.
it is that time because I buy Rolex. I am a Rolex man,
I am.
and I buy them because of how robust they are, but they've got the quality. But these sort of watches is another level again because of the finishing. I get what you and Iggy are saying. You're not saying, "Oh, this is better," but
No.
what you're saying is it's the finish that it's had on it.
Well,
It's a
Danny, it's what
total
you're
different thing.
seeking, right? It's what you're seeking. People that are buying these are seeking like wearable art, right? Like they could spend that money and buy
Yeah,
a painting.
exactly.
They could
That's
buy a painting and
exactly
leave it in
what you
their
just said.
house, or they could buy or I could buy a car, right? Like you guys all know, I drive a supercar. Like I could buy a car, but you can't take a car everywhere with you. This you could take it to dinner, you could take it overseas. It could see the birth of your child. Like completely different reason. People buy these for art and wearable art. So it's just a different buyer and a different reason for existence, I'd
And
say.
it's a different it's a different purpose, isn't it? Like if I wear Rolex all the time and I'm not frightened to get my hands stuck into stuff and scratching it.
Well,
Do
that's
you know
why
what I mean?
people, Dan, I tell
Yeah.
people, guys, like, there's no levels. I don't like Higgy likes to talk about levels and the elite of the elite. I don't believe levels exist.
But we can't listen to a word Iggy says. He's bought a watch from Alibaba and calls it a good watch. So
Time to
Oh,
sorry, Iggy.
Well,
his watch.
I'm trying to cut corners. That is what it's all about.
what you cut corners for, Higgy? Fuck me, Dad.
Yeah, but look, it's Crappy. Crappy says wearable art, get a tattoo. This is exactly the point. Crappy is
Yeah.
there's no levels. There's just
This is
tastes.
art.
There's just
Oh,
tastes,
crap!
right? And
How you doing, bro?
everybody's got
Jesus,
everybody's got a different taste and a
Yeah.
different reason to wear a watch.
that's what I
So
like about the watches. It doesn't matter how much
doesn't
money
matter.
you have.
Like
Doesn't matter.
a guy like Jock and Danny can hop on this show and say, I don't fucking like that watch because it doesn't look good, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's just a
That
personal preference, isn't it?
personal. These are James.
Exactly.
Think about it, these are jewelry. These are art. Like they're supposed to make you look good as well as evoke an emotion from you. So if it doesn't
Look,
look good to you,
I
no
would be
matter
honest,
how.
where I'm from, like I'm liking watches is weird as fuck. Like, it's crazy.
A guy could have a
I like
Seiko and he could say to me, "My watch is better than yours," and I can't say, "No, it's not,"
Absolutely. Because to
because
them,
watch is better from where
I
I'm
wanted to-
from. And you could wear a fucking Platona. They'd be like, no one looks at it. It's not about. It's weird.
I
Go
wanted to show a different kind of art because we now covered movement finishing, which is a very important part when we're talking about high-end watchmaking or high horology, high-end watchmaking. That's basically it. But another emphasis or another love that I recently discovered, it's not that long time ago, is the fine art of making a dial. And I'm a fan of enamel dials. You've seen my world time with those cloisonnés. I'm happy to pull it up again to explain you a little bit how it's made. But this is another example of true craftsmanship of art. So that is an enamel dial, and there are little gold rings sprinkled in, but she doesn't take the rings and just throw them over the dial. Those are laid out with a purpose, different diameter, different thicknesses of the material to get then this kind of result. And
let me see the
this
hands
watch
of the
is
watch. But let me see the hands of the watch.
the hands.
They're
1 second.
horrible. They're horrible.
Okay.
No, nasty. Don't like it. Go and
You
fuck
don't like
yourself.
them? Okay.
Nope.
well, look, I look, and I agree with Jock. Like, I think they could have used a different handset. It's very simple.
Fucking, I'll pick up some fucking sushi. It's fucking horrible. Horrible fans.
Look,
Okay.
I think that the contrast that they're trying to do with the dial, John, is like very simple hands to not take
Exactly,
away from
yeah.
the dial. But
Mhm.
I agree with Jock. I think they probably could have. Let's say you threw on Breguet hands on this, right? Like, or another hand style. Doesn't have to be Breguet's. Like, I think would add a bit more essence to it than if you were to just leave it very plain like this.
Then you got Adamel Piguet on the top at 12 o'clock. Horrible. Why would you put your name of your brand on the top? Horrible.
In the ring, yeah. Good
Yeah.
point.
Don't
I
like
think
it.
that
So-
I think that's to keep it symmetric.
Yeah, but instead of putting it on the dial and ruining the dial, I accept
Put it-
having it
don't-
on the
you have
rehaut.
to put your fucking name. If you're high Horology, don't you have to put on your fucking name.
I agree with you. It would be probably more discreet. We're talking here about a $700,000 watch.
This
so
is
it would be
700,000. How much is this?
700,000.
Iggy's getting two of them.
Can I just walk at my
Jock
brain
is
a
like,
minute?
what the fuck? Well, Higgy, why is it 700K? Why is it 700K?
Well,
fucking
Well,
hands with that.
the 700 is not in the dial.
$700,000.
Wait,
Bro,
Jock,
I mean, seriously,
the
bro.
700 is not in the dial. This is a
What
grande
is it?
and petite sonnerie, so it has a striking time. So this is a different level of minute repeater.
Oh,
but that is,
I love the minute.
Well, no, hold on.
repeater.
Is it a minute repeater or is it a sonnery?
no,
Come
it's,
on, mate.
I think
That's
it's both.
fucking mad,
As far as
bro.
I know, it's
So it's
both.
a repeater, it's a grand, and it's a petite sonnery.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I'd buy
See,
the Jackie Draws bird repeater before that and have change.
No, you know what? This watch is fucking ugly as fuck.
No, I like the dial. I do like the dial. I
fucking
think
not.
it's clever what they've done. But for that sort of money, I'd rather buy a Jackie Draws bird repeater and keep change.
How much
on this.
beautiful watch?
You can't wear that around, Danny.
Fucking mad.
The bird
Why?
Danny's a big fan of that. He's asked me about that bird repeater.
Yeah, that is the artisan. She's the
Good for her. Good
the
for her.
goddess. She's the goddess for enamel dial making. That is Anita Porcher, and she
Is that
signs.
watch worth 700,000 euros?
She looks like she
No.
works in Sunday Market selling flip flops, Iggy.
How many pieces is she putting together? Like, this is like, there's obviously a lot of work going into this, right?
I think those are
I
all
mean-
unique. She made that with those straight pieces. So I don't know the exact numbers, but here you can see the different dials, and I think they make
nearly
three.
enough $1 million fucking US dollars. Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like a Macallan 25
Not
bottle,
worth
man. Don't
it,
even
bro.
worry about
Come
it.
on, man.
I need to get phone to Mikey to get him to start making dials.
Patek Chris, does Jin still collect? Did he ever buy that Breguet? I don't think he bought the Breguet. He does collect. He just bought, I think, a pink OP, and I believe he got a Wimbledon. So yeah, he's buying Rolex these days. He's really disappointing me, that guy.
Oh,
That's
horrible.
mad.
So
$1
one second,
million watch. Fuck off.
I'm trying to show you.
Fuck off. I love being a Rolex fan. Boy.
So you take the $1 million Le Mans over this $1 million code, right?
Marcelo's watch is never going to be $1 million.
If someone gave you one of the choice of the other, Jock, if I handed you one of those two watches,
I think
would you
you
take?
twist it when it comes to Marcelo's Le Mans, that beautiful watch. It was the 100 years of a Le Mans. You could keep playing that game for like 20 years after. It's still the watch for the 100 years of that fucking. Oh my god!
It's a good question from Magpie.
Why is everyone so fucking twisted about fucking up Marcelo?
Magpie saying every piece is it dials a piece unique, John. I think it is actually if she's doing it by hand.
Totally. And I was a little bit silent because I was trying to pull a
Yeah, I
picture
get that,
up.
but is it worth fucking $500,000? No.
So
it's worth whatever people pay for it. So if it's not on the secondary market, it can be worth half of that, right? It's worth whatever people pay for it.
have a look at this picture. So that is the dial of my Celestial Voyager in the making. That gives you an idea.
How much? No offense, Higgy. How much is that watch you got? How much you pay for that?
75,000.
You paid $75,000.
Yes. So what you see here is the making of a cloisonné dial.
Wow.
The name cloison or cloisonné comes from those gold wires. That is a thinner than the hair. That is a gold wire. That is then milled flat, and that stands on the dial. And that gold wire separates then different layers of enamel, and there are several layers on top. And that is the making of my cloisonné dial. Everything is done by hand. That gold wire is bent and cut by hand.
Beautiful.
Every little.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah, it is good that you don't think about it, do you? But when you've just broke it down like that,
when you said that the wire is literally gold, it's been stretched and changed. That's amazing. I like that, Peggy. It's really nice.
So that is to understand the process and how difficult it is. And when you see then the end result, you understand where your hard-earned money goes. 1 second.
Higgins, can I just okay, look, Jock has sent me a photo of his response.
I ain't said nothing.
He sent me a photo of his
just 1
response.
second, Tanzil.
Don't listen to Tan, all right? Fuck you, Tan. I didn't say you shit. Okay.
So
go ahead, Jonathan. Go ahead.
That is the finished watch, and you can see the cloisons.
Pretty, bro. Look at that.
Product then.
What a beautiful little thing.
This was Jock when he found out the price of that watch. He's €1 million. What are you guys on about? €1 million? I pulled that from the London WhatsApp chat. That was awesome.
I mean, fuck me, Dad's Rolex. Like, no, you have nothing, bro. Like,
Rolex doesn't do that. Rolex used to produce cloisonné dials.
I'm a peasant, all right? I get it, but I love being a peasant. Okay.
No, I think you're approaching it in a different angle. It is not we are better than you, or this is better than your watch.
I've never thought that in my life.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain.
Watches. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain the process, how such a watch is produced, and probably make it a little bit understandable while people are paying that kind of money on those watches.
But then you've got to look at it this way as well, Jock. Look at it this way as well. You've got a Rolex that's let's say 10 grand, right? You just show the average person your watch, and they say, "Oh, that's a lovely watch. How much for that?" And you say 10 grand, and say 10 grand for a watch. My phone can do the same thing.
Fuck you, fucking paying fucking 10 grand for a watch.
So it's same sort of thing as that, basically.
Yeah.
So Magpie says it's a different level of horology. Billie Jeans is asking.
You know what, Danny?
Wait,
you know as much as me. It's like we have these people like Tan and Higgy that are literally the highest horology people. It's cool as fuck. I love it. I love to I mean, I got to, you know, wear Tan's watch on my wrist. Beautiful thing, you know. It's cool. You know, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's not about the.
So,
No,
just for your understanding, Jamie, Opulence's world time dial is made in a similar process. So, just for you to understand, there is a question from Billie Jeans who he or she is talking about the 700,000 AP watch. I wouldn't put a vouch on the fact that AP makes all the parts, because you know that AP is connected to Renault Papi, which is now an AP subsidiary, and those striking times require special parts. And it is well known that AP doesn't produce all the parts. So, for example, the stones are done by separate companies, and also hairsprings. H. Moser has a subsidiary that supplies all high-end watchmakers with hairsprings. So not everything is done in-house, even on a $700,000 watch. Would you agree on that, Patel Philippe?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think a lot of manufacturers will outsource. I mean, Moser themselves, right, make hairsprings for a lot of the manufacturers out there. And look, it's not uncommon for high horology brands to buy parts and use. I mean, Patek Philippe themselves,
But
right?
your argument, hairspring, usually.
Yeah, hairspring, dials, a lot of things. Agenor does movements, and other Metalum, for other things. Like you can ask like Bill Sanders, even when he made his Larique watch, like he went through the process of sourcing a whole different bunch of parts, whether it's the hands or the movement or the dial or whatever. Like it's not uncommon.
So Billie Jeans is saying, 30 Danny, 100%. I have people making a huge stink when I tell them my Rolex Datejust was 5,000 and it was a great price in my mind. That's exactly the thing. I mean, even when we're talking, so the concept of this channel is we're not talking about what other channels are talking about. We are usually not talking about Rolex. We're not talking about Omega or Tag Heuer or whatever, because
Yeah.
that is covered by others. We have a soft spot and a passion for those really artisan watches, and that is what we're trying to showcase, knowing that this is not a mainstream topic.
No, I totally get it. That's why I will try to give another example.
Yeah.
That like what Billie Jeans is saying, he agrees with what I'm saying. It's like to some people, if you tell me your watch is £5,000, they start saying, "Oh, I could have bought this for that. I could have bought a new calf."
Yeah, I mean,
and it's just no different to
$5,000
what
for a
you're
watch
saying.
is a lot of money. I mean, most of the people are thinking in $100 categories for a watch, if any, or Apple Watch, so below 1,000. So that those are normal people. We are not normal people. Rolex owners are
I
not
agree.
normal people. Gogh is not a normal person because he spent far too much money on his watch. And Patel Philippe are definitely not. Patel Philippe and me, we're not definitely not normal people because
totally
we're spending
agree.
so much money.
I totally agree. I get it.
Gogh,
Yes.
11.
Yes.
are you with us?
11.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So we took a tangent. I've prepared different topics, but we are already over the hour. So
Listen,
Tanzil, what are we
again,
doing?
I'm gonna get off because I keep.
Danny, are you gonna do a lounge on Blondies, or what are you gonna do?
What now?
Usually you do it like around this time, yeah.
I'll just do it whenever when no one's on. I'll do it, and then.
Okay. Yeah, because I think Higgy was gonna rap, so I don't know if you're gonna do something.
No. What I'm saying is I'm gonna get off because I've spoiled you sure what you were doing. I just originally come on to have a little joke with
No,
Iggy about stuff.
Dan,
and I don't wanna-
no. Stop, Danny. You're not spoiling the show. You have a special personal invitation by me, and I'm the channel owner here. So Patel Philippe is only an unpaid worker here. So you have a standing special invitation from me personally, and you're not bothering or destroying, or you're welcome here, and I want you here on the channel.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah?
I just didn't want to know when you were talking about something. I didn't want to like spoil it what you were doing. That's all. I just wanted to.
Look, you and I, we have a history, because at first I thought that you were fucking trolling me. And I didn't get that your questions were genuine and real, and you really wanted to learn why those watches are so expensive, or if I'm a total moron having bought a Lange versus a Patek Philippe. So I learned that your questions are serious, and I appreciate them, and I try to answer them. It is very difficult to rationalize those passions or those spendings. If you love something, you're doing crazy things, and I think that breaks it down.
Jonathan, I got a request from
Yeah.
WhatsApp from a fan who I guess they can't comment in the chat right now because they're just not able to. So they sent me a message on WhatsApp. They're asking your thoughts on Russ's rare handicrafts, Patek, and I think they mentioned rare handicrafts Ferrari. I don't know if Russ has something that's a Ferrari rare handicraft, but I know that obviously he has the Geneva Grand Prix
Yeah.
watch. I don't know if you have a picture of it, but I think that's what they were asking for. If you could just give us your take on it, that's what they wanted to know.
So can you try to pull that
Yeah,
up?
I can pull it up.
And,
Yeah,
and I'm
you
giving
can
my
why
take.
don't you start talking? I'll pull it up.
So Russ is a very good friend of mine, and Russ is a dumbass. Dumbass, I think it's pronounced, because he rejected previously a jungle tiger scene, which is a cloisonné dial introduced by Patek Philippe. He had the chance to buy that. That was a dial made by the famous Anita Porcher, and he rejected it. So I will always hold that against Russ. Now, his AD surprised him last year, I think, when he visited the Patek Philippe manufacturer. They surprised him with this watch that he had on order. Russ is a massive watch guy, but he also loves race cars. And he has a love for vintage race cars. As far as I know, what you see here is a Ferrari and a Maserati. So the term Ferrari is correct as far as I know here. So this is a combination of micro painting on enamel with cloisonné and with paillonné. So that number 2 is basically a separate part of the dial. It is a kind of inlay that is later then applied. So those are 3 different crafts of enamel dial making, and that is combined by it. So I totally admire the motive and the craftsmanship. However, I'm a little bit turned off by those hands. I think those pierced hands. I understand that they're reminiscent of the spokes of a vintage car's steering wheel, and to me the entire color code is a little bit too dull. I would like to have it a little bit more vibrant. However, I know that it's inspired by a vintage poster, and Patek Philippe chose that. I think they made 5 or 10 out of them. Super rare, super special from Patek. Only special clients are getting it. It's an amazing piece. Russ is totally happy with it. It's not my taste. Russ doesn't care, but I have great respect for this particular piece.
Well, I think Artie's picked it up here. Like, I love how the Dauphine hands resemble racing gloves, right? Like, obviously the racing inspired theme. And for those that don't know, Russ does like his cars as well. So, yeah, I think this is a great piece for a guy like Russ. Really happy a car enthusiast got this. Like, Jock, when you see car inspired watches, especially at this level, I mean, this watch was only produced in 10 pieces, right? I was just happy that car enthusiasts got this as well as a watch enthusiast. But this watch is interesting. It's not a 6119. You can see the hobnail bezel here. Like, a lot of folks mistook this for a 6119. It's actually
It's not.
not. It uses the 240 movement, which is the micro rotor movement. The 6119 uses a manual wind movement. So completely different
Can you
movement.
can you show us the Patek Philippe factory in the background, because that is a nice touch. In the background here, you can see the Patek Philippe factory painted in enamel, And everybody, anybody who has been in Geneva knows exactly where that is, because that is the famous bridge. The fountain is in the background. And so everybody who has ever been to Geneva and walked around the city, visiting watch shops, knows exactly where that is. And I think in the 1930s, in the 1930s, they had car racing here in the middle of Geneva.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's look at the stiletto.
Ah, shit.
You can't talk about this watch, Jonathan,
I
and not bring
found
up your biggest critique. Now, by the way, Russ, if you're listening, I'm a huge fan of this watch, but Jonathan has to be very original OCD, as he usually is. So
that
why
is
don't you give us the original
that is
OCD
my
version of the watch?
invention. That is my invention. I'm very proud of it. So what you see here is a lady stiletto. I mean, there is no way around that. And I'm teasing Russ every time that I see his watch with a stiletto dial. That is what we call. And Russ knows exactly which watch I'm talking about. So that is the Geneva fountain, and there is a little bit wind going. So the water coming up from the fountain is then carried away a little bit in that shape. Actually, I sent Russ a picture of the fountain in Hamburg on a windy day, and it looked exactly like that. So we have a stiletto motif here in Hamburg as well. I think it's a hilarious detail, and Russ and I fortunately have a friendship that can take those kind of jokes.
So Billie Jean says, I'd love to see watch companies who do such limited numbers require an interview and proof that the owner will hold on to the piece for at least 5 years, similar to what Ford does with the Ford GT. I'm not really privy to the understanding of like what it took for Russ to get the piece, as well as the kind of agreement that he has potentially with the brand around its resale. I don't know. I can't really comment on it because I don't buy these watches. Jonathan, I don't know if you've ever talked to Russ about the resale.
As far as
ability,
I know, you need a long-standing history with your AD, and basically the AD is then telling Patek, we have a potential client for this type of watch, and they give the name then to Patek headquarter, and that is how the process goes. Very interesting point, Billie Jeans. I had this discussion when I was at Recepi, and they told me that the most difficult part for them is not to produce the watches. The most difficult part for them is to decide who receives the allocation of their watches. So I can tell you, Recepi mostly deals directly with their clients. I think they have one or two ADs, but mostly they deal directly with their clients, and they want to know their clients, and they know their clients, they know their collections, I was bringing to that conversation. I was bringing my Celestial Voyager with me, and I talked a little bit about the watch. And I think the fact that the interview went from 30 minutes to 2 hours tells you a little bit that they understood that I'm a watch nut. I'm a total crazy person, and probably would be a good fit for their watches. However, I'm not able to afford one of their watches, and I didn't ask.
All these questions just bring me back to cars for some reason, because the watch industry and the car industry are very similar when you get into like the really high end stuff. So Patek Chris is asking, did Russ say how much harder this was to get than the Nautilus, than any Nautilus? A guy I know over the internet just got his first and said it was 10 times harder to get than any Nautilus he has. So again, I don't really know, how hard it was for Russ, but I'll make an analogy in terms of cars, right? The Nautilus, if you think about the Lamborghini side, you got the Aventador SVJ. It's a special edition. It's not easy to get. You have to buy a bunch of cars to get it. Similar to like the Nautilus. Not a lot of special edition, but you do need to buy a bunch of watches to get one, right? And then you have these like really like one-off, like one of three Lamborghinis, like the Veneno or something like that, right? Like there's only three of them in the world. And so you have to be VIP to get those. And I think that's the analogy, Patek Chris, is, this is really a select group, the people that are getting flown into Geneva by the manufacturer to see what they have, and those that understand the kind of art that goes into it, because not everybody gets it, and what they don't want is they don't want people just buying it to flip it because they wouldn't understand what's going on in the piece.
I would approach Patek Chris's question from a different angle. So we know that 10 of those have been made. I think they made 4 or 5 different motives. So we're talking about 50 watches that Patek made. How many Nautiluses do they make per year? What is an estimate? 1,000, 2,000, 5,000?
If you do even if you did 1,000, right? That watch has been
Yeah,
produced for a long time
yeah.
too, right? So how many years has that been? I think it was what,
No,
2000 and
but we're talking 1,000 Nautilus then versus 50 of them. So you get an idea how difficult they are compared to get a Nautilus.
yeah, but rarity and you know, obviously demand are different, right? You can put up 1 million limited edition Omegas that don't have any demand, right? Like
Yeah.
just because it's rare doesn't mean there's demand. There is
Well,
so
but
I guess
there is demand for those.
well, this is
I think that
exactly
is
it,
a
right?
high demand.
But right, this is exactly it. And
Mm.
I think for those that are kind of questioning, like, why is it $1 million? Why is it $500,000? Right? Like what these brands do is they even do it at exhibitions every year where they showcase the artisans actually, you know, creating these pieces. And Jonathan, you yourself, you've gone through, you know, attempts of guilloche and stuff, and it ain't exactly the easiest thing to do in the world either. So people start getting more of an appreciation for this as they learn more about the brand, as they learn more about the artistry that goes into it. And that really drives people to appreciate and want to buy these pieces over your run of the mill Nautilus. Like I've owned a 5711, guys. It ain't that great of a watch. It's a $30,000 watch. It's not a $100,000 watch.
Patek Chris is asking a good question. Would you take a Porsche dial rare handicraft ellipse if you were indifferent of the ellipse, I think, but loved Anita's art?
Would you take a Porsche dial rear handcrafts ellipse if you were indifferent about the ellipse, but love? Honestly, I like the ellipse, so I'd take that all day long. I
No,
don't know
but
about you, John.
taken you don't like the ellipse. Would you dial? Would you take an ellipse with an Anita Porsche signed dial just because it has an Anita Porsche signed dial?
If it was me, I probably would because I understand the kind of craftsmanship that goes into the enameling, and you're probably going to get the highest quality, you know, in the world. So I would say that in of itself is probably what would drive me to it. Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't. I
I
wouldn't
like the
because
ellipse though. Like I'm just biased. I like the
yeah,
ellipse a lot.
I like
Um,
the ellipse a lot, and I like the blue ellipse more than the thing with that engraving and enameling.
Mikey Casio, I can tell you exactly where all three Venenos are. One of them is at Lamborghini Montreal, which I see all the time because that is my Lamborghini dealer where I do my service. One of them, I believe, like you said, is at the Lambo Museum, and then one of them is in Dubai. There's only three of them out in the world. I've seen one of the three.
Oh, none is in London? That surprises me a little bit.
No, Dubai, Montreal, because Lamborghini Montreal is the oldest Lamborghini dealer in the world. I think they started dealing in the 70s or something. They're still around, so yeah, their owner is like a big Lamborghini collector.
So that was an interesting show because we didn't do anything that I have prepared. I wanted to show you. I think we're going to wrap this up very soon, but just wanted to show what I have prepared. And I was reading all day long about crayon watches, and I learned to appreciate them. And I think on one of the next shows, I'm going to cover them because I find the dial interesting. I find the technology interesting. I find the story of the company interesting, and it shows that a small independent watchmaker can put some effort in making his watches more attractive, because the way that Crayon started was, in my opinion, visually not really appealing. So now they found their way, but it took them several steps to make an attractive watch equivalent to the price that they're asking.
I think I'll handle this question before we wrap from Embark. Not on about Patek so much, but how difficult will these watches at these price points be when it comes to servicing and parts replacements damage in 10 to 20 years' time? Obviously, Patek Philippe is well known to service and create parts for any watch that they've made in their entirety since the 1800s. So, like you said, Patek's not really the problem. But yeah, like Embark, this is a question that I ask Jonathan all the time, right? Like, you're going to dive into a Gronefeld. You're going to dive into a Reshepi. You're going to dive into a Simon Pret. Like, what will happen in 10 to 20 years if these startups don't lift off, or an FP Journe, you know, goes to a conglomerate, you know, after he's gone, right? Like, very good question, and definitely, I think some of this market is people buying and investing and selling. I think some of this market is people who truly want to invest in art. End of the day, I think that they're still going to be okay, but it really depends on how those brands, really lift off and take off over time. Hard to predict, but yeah, like it's a real concern because in 10 to 20 years, watches themselves may not be valuable. So you may be in a sinking ship situation.
I understand the concern. In my opinion, for independent watchmaking, the future is what Marco Lang does. Marco Lang, Lang and Heine, is on the record of providing detailed information about the parts that he's using in his watches. So everybody, this is public knowledge, so everybody can download those files and produce those parts if necessary, and decorate it then to a high standard. I think that is the future, particularly for independent watchmakers. With a bigger brand like Patek or Vacheron, I wouldn't be worried. Small independents could be a problem. A guy like Recep Recepi is super young. He has a very young team. I wouldn't be worried about him. But matter of fact, not all of those independents that we see today, that are fascinating today, will be there in 20 years.
All right, I guess that's the show for today.
I mean, we have 38 viewers. I've seen a draft where I can see that viewers are really staying until the end, which is unbelievable. If I would watch such a channel, I would tune off after 5 minutes. Mrs. Higgins usually goes after 2. So I can only say thank you to everybody who is listening to those shows. I know that it's not always easy to understand. We try to make it visually as comprehensible as possible. I would like to thank everybody who asked questions. I would like to thank my panelists, Patek Philippe, Mental Jog, Serdi Danny. Did I forget somebody?
I know. Well, from when I've been on, that's all I've seen. But thank you for having me on again.
Yeah. So welcome. Please come back, Gogh. Not sure if you're here still. Gogh, are you there? Gogh?
Maybe he's away. It's all good.
Okay. So thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday evening, Sunday night. You have a great rest of the day, rest of the night. I promise you we will be back, and thank you very much for supporting. If you haven't, please subscribe and please leave us a thumbs up.
Goodbye, and good evening from Germany.
Bye-bye.
Bye.